In recent years, China has become a lucrative market for the global entertainment industry. However, the Chinese government has banned several international celebrities for reasons ranging from political statements to perceived disrespect. Miley Cyrus is not welcomed in China due to a 2009 photograph of the singer and her friends, in which they seem to mock the appearance of Asians. Miss Cyrus has made it clear she is no friend of China or anyone of East Asian descent, officials declared at the time. Cyrus later apologized, maintaining that she was just making a silly face and didn't intend to offend anyone. "I have learned a valuable lesson from this and know that sometimes my actions can be unintentionally hurtful." Years after the picture, the ban remains in place. Keanu Reeves. In March 2022, Chinese streaming platforms including Tencent Video and iQIYI took down films and video content starring Canadian actor Keanu Reeves after he participated in a Tibet-related concert organized by a non-profit founded by the Dalai Lama. Checks by Reuters showed his acclaimed works, The Matrix and John Wick franchises, as well as Speed, were among the films that have been removed. Reuters could not determine when the films were taken down. The Los Angeles Times, which first reported the content removal on Thursday, said at least 19 of his movies were pulled from Tencent Video. Brad Pitt starred in the 1997 film 7 Years in Tibet, playing the 14th Dalai Lama's tutor. Chinese officials took offense to that movie because of how it portrayed the Chinese occupation of Tibet. Were they really expecting a movie where the Dalai Lama was the bad guy? Deciding that the filmmakers needed to get punished for the movie, they barred the main people involved with the movie from China, including Pitt. Until 2016, Pitt couldn't set foot in China. After 19 years, the government decided he had learned his lesson. Selena Gomez's encounter with the Dalai Lama back in 2014 ended up causing quite a stir in China. During the rehearsals for the 2014 We Day Vancouver event, the famous pop star had the chance to meet the Dalai Lama. Like any teenager, she shared this exciting moment on her Instagram and Twitter accounts. Now, you'd think that a picture with a spiritual leader wouldn't be a big deal, right? Well, surprisingly, it became one. The Chinese government didn't react immediately, and Selena Gomez didn't even know she had caused any trouble until 2 years later when she was planning a tour in China. Everything seemed to be going well as her website announced tour dates in Guangzhou and Shanghai. But then, out of the blue, those dates vanished from her website. It turns out that the Chinese government had finally caught wind of that 2-year-old photo with the Dalai Lama, which had since been removed from her social media accounts. Can you imagine Chinese officials scrolling through Selena Gomez's Instagram pictures to find that one offending image? It's quite a peculiar image to think about, but it goes to show that sometimes even the smallest actions can have significant consequences in international affairs. Sharon Stone got herself banned primarily because of some ill-advised comments she made during the 2008 Cannes Film Festival. She suggested that the deadly Sichuan earthquake might have been a result of bad karma due to China's treatment of the Dalai Lama. Now, that's a pretty insensitive thing to say, especially considering the earthquake caused a tragic loss of life. In response to her remarks, the Chinese government decided to ban all of her movies from being shown in China. Even though she later apologized, her ban from China still stands. Now, Richard Gere, the guy from Pretty Woman, turned into quite the humanitarian hero. During the 1993 Academy Awards, he did something unexpected. Instead of sticking to the prearranged script while presenting an award, he went off-script and talked about the human rights abuses China was committing in Tibet. This move caused quite a stir. The folks running the Academy Awards were not happy and even swore to ban Gere from any future award shows. But Gere wasn't deterred. He continued to champion the cause of Tibet and his friend, the Dalai Lama. Chinese government officials, however, weren't big fans of his outspokenness, and they promptly banned him from setting foot in their country. This ban didn't do his career any favors, especially since major studios rely on the Chinese market these days for their movies to be considered successful. So, they shied away from casting Gere in their films, fearing backlash from the Chinese government. And then there's Justin Bieber, the poster child for teenage rebellion. His long list of misdemeanors, including that infamous drag racing incident, didn't earn him any brownie points with Chinese officials. It's not like they had a specific reason to ban him, it was more about not liking his overall attitude. Beijing's Culture Bureau made it clear that they thought he'd engaged in a series of bad behaviors that caused discontent among the public. So, in an effort to purify China from his influence, they waved goodbye to the Biebs. Gigi Hadid got herself in hot water for an act that many deemed pretty offensive. Back in February 2017, a video surfaced of her holding up a Buddha-shaped cookie and squinting her eyes, which people saw as making fun of how Chinese folks look and playing into stereotypes. Her own sister, Bella, posted the video at a birthday party, but it was later deleted. That single act reportedly got her banned from China, and her visa request was denied before the Victoria's Secret fashion show in Shanghai later that year. She had walked in the show in 2015 and 2016, but 2017 wasn't her year in China. Now, Bob Dylan, the legendary folk singer, found himself in a bit of a pickle in 2010. His concerts in Beijing and Shanghai were called off, which basically put the brakes on his entire Asian tour. Why? Well, Chinese officials seem to be sweating over his reputation as an icon of the counterculture movement from the 1960s. It didn't matter that Dylan had mellowed out a lot since then, they just didn't want him spreading those rebellious vibes around. Jay-Z, the rap mogul, had a not-so-pleasant experience in China too. He was all set to perform at Hongkou Stadium in Shanghai in 2006, but that concert got cancelled. It wasn't about his music, it was about his choice of words in his songs. The Chinese Culture Ministry chimed in, saying some of Jay-Z's songs contain too much vulgar language. So, they decided to go all in and banned him from performing in the country. Censoring albums? Sure. Banning artists for being too crude? That's next level. And then there's Lady Gaga, who really knows how to push China's buttons. In 2016, she had a little tête-à-tête with the Dalai Lama about yoga and compassion. Now, here's the kicker, the Dalai Lama is no friend of Chinese officials, and as soon as they caught wind of Gaga's meeting, they were not pleased. Her music got the boot from China, and she was basically persona non grata on Chinese television and radio. But wait, there's more. In 2011, some of her work was blacklisted for being too vulgar. Seems like Gaga has a knack for getting under China's skin. So, Katy Perry was all geared up to rock the Victoria's Secret fashion show in Shanghai back in 2017, but China had other plans. They decided to play detective and uncovered some dirt on her. They discovered that during one of her concerts, she had the audacity to dangle a Taiwanese flag over herself and even sported a sunflower gown. Now, you might think, what's the big deal? Well, China doesn't take kindly to anything hinting at Taiwan's independence, and they promptly denied Katy Perry's visa. She got slapped with an indefinite ban from the country for that. Martin Scorsese. The brilliant filmmaker behind Kundun, a movie delving into the life and beliefs of the Dalai Lama, was also declared persona non grata. Now, this didn't sit well with the Chinese officials because anything remotely related to Tibetan independence is a strict no-go in their books. They got so mad that they even threatened to ban Disney from their box office market if they dared release Kundun. Scorsese and Disney stood their ground, which led to the ban hammer striking both Scorsese and Disney movies in China. But guess what? Eventually, Disney decided to smooth things over because, well, China's market is just too darn profitable. Harrison Ford has been a staunch advocate for human rights, especially when it comes to China's track record and their occupation of Tibet. His journey into Tibetan issues started back in 1992 when his wife was working with Martin Scorsese on the script for Kundun, a film about the 14th Dalai Lama. During that time, he had a fateful encounter with the Dalai Lama himself, and that moment changed the course of his life. From then on, Ford became a vocal supporter of Tibet, and in 1995, he took things to the next level by testifying before the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He laid it all out, detailing China's human rights abuses in Tibet and making a strong case for Tibetan independence. You can bet that didn't sit well with the Chinese government. As a consequence, China banned Harrison Ford from setting foot in the country, along with his then-wife Melissa Matheson. But here's the thing about Harrison Ford, he doesn't back down. He's still actively involved in advocating for Tibet, and it's like he's living out his Indiana Jones persona in real life, taking on authoritarian governments and fighting for what he believes in. Now, that's some serious dedication. Which celebrity on this list surprised you the most?